Hi everyone, thanks for joining the Ivanti ELA Webcast Series today. Welcome to Part 3, IT Service Management. I'm John Bartz with Network Consulting Services, and with me today is Brian Hoskins, Director of Services here at NCSI. Good morning, Brian.
Morning, John.
And we're exploring and recording all 5 sessions of this ELA series, and we'll post it to our YouTube channel. You can see we've been pretty busy. We've got 2 more to go, Identity and Unified Endpoint Management later this month. You can go to our website and sign up for those as well. So let's dive right in. First, what is the Ivanti ELA? I'll keep this brief as many of you have joined earlier sessions, but with all the recent acquisitions over the past few years, Ivanti's line has exploded exponentially, so the ELA was created so you can get more value out of it, kind of like a buffet instead of a la carte. You can pick 2 options or get the entire offering with the unified IT. And there's some great benefits like the True Forward licensing, which eliminates the midterm procurement hassles. There's the Ivanti Cloud and extraction reporting as well that even make it a greater value. We can dive into those details with you when the time is right, but today's presentation, we're going to be looking at IT service management specifically. Brian, you want to go ahead and take over and walk us through that?
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to kick off IT service management. You'll notice that service management is one of the 5 pillars of the Ivanti ELA. So it's a big part of Ivanti's strategy, integration, all the different components that sit around service management, a big part of everything Ivanti is doing and a big part of their strategy going forward. The ITSM Pillar has 3 different levels or options that customers can get into. Now, this is more for the customers that are looking at a la carte from an ITSM pillar, because as the ITSM pillar, you're able to get a help desk pillar, a help desk level, a service desk level, or a service management level. Those customers who go to the ELA do get the service management level. And you'll see there, the service desk adds things like change, CMDB, problem management, whereas the service management level, or the highest level that comes with the ELA, gets availability, event management, financial management, portfolio, project management, and release management in there as well. So lots of different capabilities. We're definitely not going to drive into all of those different features as we go, but I am going to kind of start with some integration, some different components with different settings and looking at how things start and how we can go through and kick off from there. So we'll start with the demo here. Let me go ahead and switch over to the IT service management platform. You'll see I have a couple of them open. The first one that I have open is the Ivanti out of the box. So this is our instance that's running. It is the out of the box, where customers will start with day one. I also have another instance that we'll probably refer to here and there that is branded Virtrillo. Virtrillo has some configuration into it, right? So we've gone through and put in some of the things a lot of our customers have asked for as we've gone through and done different demos and different configurations and different stuff associated with that. So this one's a little bit more built out and has more configuration. But you'll see most of this demo, I'll be going through and walking you from a service management and out-of-the-box perspective. So as we go forward, kind of talking a little bit about Service Manager, important to understand that Service Manager is all about the roles and the capabilities for each one of those roles. So you'll see I'm logged in as the NCSI admin up here, and I've got my role set to administrator. So based upon being an administrator, I have access to a whole bunch of different dashboards that not everyone would have access to. I have a whole bunch of different modules that I'm available to go through and configure and work with as that. Let's go ahead and switch a role over to the manager role. Right? So I have a team of analysts or technicians that I'm managing. I want to go through and start to look at that from a team perspective. Well, here you can come through and see we've got a couple of things from a manager role. You'll notice right off the bat, I'm going to be a little bit more limited on what I have access to because I'm not an administrator. I don't need all the back-end configuration on there. And then my dashboards, things that are going to be specific for me. You notice this first dashboard is all about how my team is performing. So I can start to see team workload. I can see things that are assigned to my team but haven't been assigned to an actual individual. As we've gone through there, I can see my team's breached incidents. I can go through, see my team's active incidents by different priorities. I could go through and see top services that are active on different things. Notice I'm looking at the last 20 years. Maybe I would only want to look at the last 3 years, whatever. I can go through and drill down into this data, work with there, and any incidents that are set to a master or major incident kind of functionality we have here as well, right? I can also drill down into those. So if I wanted to look at the workload of an individual technician, see, where that happens to be at, I can go through those. I can then even come here and say, we've got, a couple of these together. Maybe I need to go through and start doing something with some of these. Oh, these actually, maybe these are something that we need to be resolved at this point. I can come up here right from the dashboard that I was in, and I can come and pull in to say, this was a software problem. And now we can go through from that perspective. It will resolve those two particular records and kind of move them out from there. And then I'm going to start getting notifications here that we've got different components on there. All right, so as we go through and look at this, you'll see here, that was the manager role. There's other default dashboards. Hey, how are we doing from our service levels? And how are each one of the different service levels that were configured in different components, and how are we trending against those service levels? How are we doing on our surveys that are coming back? And I would be able to kind of start to track and see all the different surveys associated with that. Then I can come through and see, different dashboards that are available to me that may not be my favorites, and I could go into any one of those. You'll also notice there's a watch dashboard, kind of the top things that are happening and active articles and top VIP incidents that are coming through. I also have a watch list on here. As an individual technician or manager, I can go through and see the access from different components, backup details of some pinned items that I have, as well as everything that I've opened up recently from my history. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over to an analyst role instead of to a manager role. And this is where an individual technician would be. Now, a technician is going to be much more specific about what's my roles, what are the things that are assigned to me, as opposed to what's the team doing and what's the overall holistic view of that. So as a technician, I'm looking at my open tasks. I'm looking at my active incidents. I'm looking at unassigned self-service incidents. If I've done all my stuff, where can I go and pick that up next? You'll also notice here, I have an export to Excel, right, from any of these different dashboard components. I can also maximize any one of them. So if I need to see it in a little bit bigger view, I can go through and capture that right from that dashboard view from there. So now we can go through and kind of look at different components from there. I'm going to switch back over to an administrator. So if there are questions that do come up and we want to talk a little bit about other things, we can show you that. But you see, everything's role-based. My home screen is where all of my dashboards, all the different configurations that I have along those lines are going to be. And then you'll see we have all of the different modules that are going to sit up here along the top, whether it's incident, service request, change, knowledge, any of the different modules, they're all going to follow the same structure. Every module, or what we call workspace, has three main sections to it. We have the search, we have the results, and then we have the preview, right? So here you will see I've got a saved search right up here that I can drop down any one of these saved search and quickly select those. Hey, show me only my active incidents, or show me incidents that aren't closed, or really quickly show me my team's active incidents. And I can just quickly pull any one of those different saved searches down from there. I've also got the ability to create searches right from here. If I wanted to go to any one of these fields to the funnel, you'll see that it will go through and let me do different sorting, grouping, filters on any one of the different components that are here. So if I wanted to come to status, and let's just say I wanted to say, show me only those things that are active. Now that's not a great example because we're already looking at all active incidents. And so that filter really didn't clear anything because the saved search was already there. But let's say we come over here to priority, and let's say let's only show those things that are a priority 3, right? And then that would filter out any of the other different components that are there. Now, we can go and do that on any of the different columns that are here. I've also got a filter section up here along the top where we can go through and do a bunch of quick saved components. So if we were to just be at all incidents, right, just everything that's there, and I wanted to say, show me everything that's logged and active, that's a priority 3 and 4, that's assigned to my team, that was created this month, right? Now we're down to 2 active records at this point. Let's say where the service is data service, and that will take us down to a single record. You'll notice as soon as we get to a single record, it will actually go through and open that particular record up, and we can start to see some of the different components associated with that. If we jump back up to the workspace view, then we can go through. Here's those filters again. I could remove any one of those filters up here in the breadcrumb trail, or I could remove it down here along the different components. If I have something that I want to use again and again, I can go ahead and use that as a saved search later on from there, and then it will take and save that so I can have it in this drop down at that point. You'll also notice up here, we've got the ability to just do free text search. Hey, show me everything that I've submitted into the system. From here, I could go through to that. Show me everything that has the keyword Outlook in any of those key fields like summary, description, category, any of those values that are there, resolution, it would go through and do that. Well, I want to show everything that had the Outlook and Brian had submitted it. You know what? I also want to look at only those things that are closed, right? And so you can go through and see all the different components from there and all the details along those lines. Right, so as you're going through and doing that, you'll also notice the preview has been happening as we've selected different things. The preview will show up along the bottom. If I select more than one, the last highlighted item would then go through and be the one that would show up in the preview. And then I can start running actions from the menu up here to do different things based upon where I'm at on this particular component from there. So again, all of them follow this same thing. So for instance, if I were to open up the change management module, you would then be able to see I have a search with filters, free text search, results, and a preview on them. Again, if I were to go into the CMDB and look at that, search, results, and now I would have to select something to have the preview down here along the bottom. So each one of these different components, I can go through and work from them at that point. Okay, John, I'm just going to do a quick pause, see if there's any questions up to this point.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead and put those questions in either the Q&A or the chat box there. We do have a question from Jeff asking about when you close a ticket, can you modify the date and time later? If I close a ticket yesterday and I'm only getting around to updating tickets today, can I go back and close it, edit the date?
That would go kind of against best practices, but you could configure it to allow you to do that. But out of the box, it would not allow you to do that, and certainly would go against the way people could kind of game their SLA settings on that. But that could be a configuration if a customer wanted to do that.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and create our first incident. So again, here we are. We're in the new incident form. In this example, we're taking a phone call from a customer. So we're still in an analyst view and kind of working through from that perspective. Now, if we were to go through and select, let's use Marcia. You'll notice Marcia's going to come in. We're going to get key information about Marcia from an email and from her phone and department that she's in. We can see information by clicking edit, and this would come in from Active Directory or some kind of LDAP sync to be able to bring all of this information in. And then we would be able to go through and say, from here, if I wanted to go and find more information about that, I could go to Marcia's employee record. I would be able to see all of Marcia's information. We would be able to look at, hey, here's Marcia's incident history. Here's the change history. Also the assets that are assigned to Marcia in the system. I would be able to see all of that on her employee record. Let's go ahead and say we can go through and put in a VPN connection problem from her laptop, right? We put in the details here. You'll notice over here we've got the service. We'll go ahead and select the category as connectivity, right? You'll notice the resolution is down here on the bottom, but it is blank until we come through up here. The status is active. I can link the asset, right? So if I wanted to go through and say, show me where the owner is Marcia, and then it would go through and find only her particular assets. I can add that asset to this incident as the laptop that's having a problem with the VPN connectivity, right? And then you might have noticed over here on the side, as I was going through this, it went out and searched knowledge, problem management records, incident history, as well as changes out there in the system that it's gone through. So, hey, somebody's doing a firewall upgrade. Maybe that's causing the problem in this instance where we're kind of working from that perspective. Well, if that's not it, then we have other incident histories from this. So we can go through and see, hey, here's a VPN connection problem in the past. Maybe this problem would go through and work to resolve our current one. If it did, I could click Resolve Incident. It would take the resolution from this old incident, populate it into the new incident, set the status to resolved, and go ahead and close that particular incident. If it's a problem record that we're tracking against, here you can see I've got VPN. Actually, I want the VPN connectivity here. We can go through and say, hey, there's a problem with VPNs, and I can link this as another instance of that. I could go through and resolve it via the resolution if there is one to that problem, resolve it via the workaround for that particular record. I could go through from there, or I can come here to a knowledge article, and you'll see here's a knowledge article that we can go through. It's got embedded videos, different capability where you can put rich context in these particular knowledge articles, and then I go ahead and say, yep, this fixes the problem. I click link and resolve. You notice it now set the status to resolved on that particular incident. It filled out the resolution of that incident from that knowledge article, and I just go ahead and click save, and now we're done. That user gets a notification with the kind of details along those lines. You'll also notice here, if I were to go over to the knowledge tab, which I am on, there it is, okay, right in front of me, but I couldn't see it. We can go through, see here, the actual knowledge article that was linked in this case. If I were to go over to that knowledge article, we would be able to start to see statistics and different components associated with that. And here's the previous incidents where that particular knowledge article has been used to resolve that, all from here. So we would be able to go through and see all of the details along that particular article. So another quick example of an incident. This one I'll go ahead and put my account on, and it wants to go through and say, all right, from here, let's go ahead and say, well, actually, let's apply a template. So here you see a whole bunch of templates that we have around different components. I'm going to apply the backup failure template. And you'll see here, as I go through and apply that backup failure, it applies the summary, the description, the service, the category, all the different components from that. But it also added a task to that. So here you would see the template had more than just those main components. It actually had a task aligned to that with all of the kind of information from there to somebody to go in and restore that backup on the server at that point. If this is a greater problem, maybe there's lots of people being affected from it, I could declare this as a master incident, right? Now I can't declare that to a master incident until we start to get some different components that have some strategy or some different configuration around allowing that to happen, right? And different configuration. Now, I wanted to point out here, just really quickly, over here on this incident, again, a little bit more configured along this line. All right, so we come in here to do a new incident. Again, a little bit different. When I were to go select my account over here, you would then go through and see, hey, here's my department phone, email, callback number, manager, all this kind of configuration. Hey, if I wanted to open this on behalf of somebody else within the organization, I could go ahead and do that. And then I could kind of manage and say, oh, that person, I want me to get that notification. I want both of us to get the notifications, something along those lines. You'll notice we open up a little bit more in terms of the detail. We also don't show the resolution status until he actually moves to a resolution field, until we move to a resolved status. Just some examples of some things that we've done. We've also moved, the journal for a lot of customers onto a separate tab rather than being right here on that base tab where the journal kind of takes up a lot of the real estate from some of the other stuff. So just some different ways that we've done things for some customers as they've gone through and asked different components along there. You will then notice a couple of other things from here. Again, I still have that, declare as a master incident available to me, and based upon whatever it happens to be, we can set that. Hey, if it's going to be related to something, we could go through and find that as well. I'm not going to save that one. I want to pull up this one. Here you can go through and see, here is a master incident or a major incident that's happening in the organization, and I have related incidents to that. And you'll also notice that I can go through and say, hey, copy that information in from that parent into a child and select a new user to go through and do that from here. Now, we also have a component that's a part of this called Voice. Ivanti Voice allows you to kind of call in and open incidents, check the status of incidents from that. So I'm going to go ahead and call in to our Virtrillo environment, and I'm going to actually open this, and you will see we're going to have a notice saying that we're having a master incident around this ERP login configuration that's here.
Virtrillo, your call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes. To speak to the IT service desk, please press 1. To speak to human resources, please press 2. To speak to the payroll department, please press 3.
So, press 1.
Hello.
Brian,
Thank you for calling the Virtrillo IT service desk.
we are experiencing an ERP system login failure.
If you would like to create a ticket for this and receive an automated callback upon resolution, please press 1. To speak to an agent, please press 2. To disconnect, please press 3.
So I'll press 1.
The incident number for this issue is
11548.
you will receive an automated notification when
Right? And so now I'm going to get a phone call back.
Virtrillo voice. Guarding ticket number 11548 is closed, which will greatly improve your day and bring a smile to your face. Goodbye.
So as you can kind of see, Virtrillo can go through and pull that in, or the voice system can pull that in and work from that perspective, and you'll see all the different major incidents that I have and all the different components would then show that kind of information. If I were to go through and look at my related incidents associated with that, and I think at the very end I'd need to see where I'm at, but I'll have another new incident based upon that from here. So you'll notice I've done that a couple of times from that perspective. So lots of different capability from voice that can do prompts, different components associated with that. I also have the ability, to do notes. Lots of people use notes within here, both publish out to self-service or private internal notes. I also can have email directly from within this tool. So if I need to email that customer, if they need to respond back to an email, any of that kind of stuff can happen all through, native clients within here, rather than having to go out to Outlook to be able to go through and email somebody. It all happens and traces it straight through within the actual incident or request system that's there. So, John, I'm going to take a quick pause and see if there's any questions from here.
Yeah, we certainly do. Dave's asking about the alert banner at the top of the service manager view. Is that based on the CMDB?
It's based upon anything within the system that you want to tell it to configure alerts. So, absolutely, it can be.
Okay. Jason's asking, is there an option to schedule an incident to open automatically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So there's a schedule manager, a schedule entry where you can go through and say, hey, I want to create something that goes weekly, daily, monthly, whatever it happens to be, and it will go through and do all these kind of tasks or incidents based upon that information.
Okay, Linda's asking, how easy is it to modify the layout of the single item view?
So the layout is all configurable, and it's over here, kind of getting into the back end side of this. You can go through and say, I want to go to the business object, right? And so we're going to go look at the incident business object, whereas the layouts for that, we come in here and say, let's go find the layouts. The layout for our service desk team looks like this, right? And we're going to go ahead and edit the form view. And the form view editor, you can go through and see, is a drag and drop editor where I can go through and lay things out, click edit, and then I can go move things around, change the size of things, anything from there on that particular view. So you've got all kinds of capability of how you want that to work through from there. So easy to do, drag and drop, no code required to go through and do this kind of stuff.
Okay, great. Larry's asking about a form on their intranet to collect basic information about an incident. Is there a way to do that, or is there an API for that?
So we have our own self-service and we have an API. So if we want to go through and do our own self-service, it has all kinds of capability. I'm going to show you that next. We also have a full API if you want to do things from your own web page or for your own SharePoint or any of that kind of stuff. You can do that as well. Okay, let's jump over to our self-service. So you'll notice here that same banner you guys might have seen earlier from the analyst is being published into self-service. So we've got things that are going on from a perspective of remote users, people, HRs having performance problems, any of that kind of stuff from here is all going to show from our ERP system, PeopleSoft HR, all of those notifications. I could go in and drill into those if I wanted to find a little bit more information and kind of work through from there. Now I can also go through here and say, right, here's our particular service catalog. We can go through from a home perspective. I can search knowledge articles, right? Let's say I wanted to find something from an Outlook perspective. I could go through and see, hey, how do you set up Outlook on an email client? And that takes me to an FAQ where they would be able to go through and find that. I want to go through and search to different configurations. I can go through and pull that kind of information. I can either do it from a global search here, which will search kind of everything, or I can go to the individual components like help me search a particular knowledge article. From here now it shows me all the email components that are there. And how do I access my email from the web? Well, here, you can go here, or if you also want to do it from a mobile device, you can go through here and you see an image on how to do that or a link out to a different component. The knowledge article can do that. You see users have rated this knowledge article. So I would be able to see what users have rated on that from that perspective, kind of working through. I would be able to also rate it myself and give it a certain star rating or whatever. Was this useful or not? I could add any comments from that kind of perspective at that point. Right? Again, all of the FAQs, knowledge articles are all here. Then we have the My Items. My Items allows me to go through and see, hey, all the things that I submitted as an employee in the organization, whether it's a new employee setup, a new TV request. You see my manager didn't approve my new TV request. We can go through and see new employee components, tablet requests, different things that are within here. We can go through and see all of my incidents that I've submitted. And then if I'm somebody that needs to do approvals, here's all of the approvals that are sent to me based upon different things. And you see I have an approval to, or a request to go ahead and approve a different component along those lines and any of the different sets that are there. All right, so let's go look at a service catalog item. So here, the service catalog, all of our incidents, all of our service requests are all configured within here. So we've got different components that are going through and saying, hey, let's say I have a PC problem that I'm going to go through and look at. Well, if I search PC within this service catalog, I get a loaner, I get a new computer request, and I get a PC's running slow, all within here, and all the different configuration along those lines. So the PC running slow, well, that's a template-based incident. So you'll see from that perspective, it will have that same summary and description and different details associated with that I could go ahead and submit. Or if I need a new computer, because my PC slow is just because it's old, right? Then it would go through and start asking me, what's some information about that PC that we need, that you want to go through and add, all of that kind of configuration, different details along those lines from there. So every one of these request offerings is configured based upon what we want along those lines. So for instance, if somebody wants a new tablet, you'll see here, it's going to ask, okay, what department is it for? Who's the requester for this, right? What's the cost center that we need on this? And again, these are just examples, but here they want an iPad. Let's get it to be a white one. Let's do 64 gigs. And you'll notice those are some very old numbers. Again, I'm out of the box, right? So now you'll see it's added a cost from there. When I click review and submit, it allows me to save it as a draft for later. I go ahead and click submit, click edit or cancel it. When I click submit, it adds it to my shopping cart. Now, a lot of the customers are taking things out of the shopping cart, or not having a shopping cart and just going straight to submit, but it is there for customers that want it. The nice thing about a shopping cart is I can see them all, and when I submit it, it goes through and submits each one individually, or I can even come through here and say, no, I don't want that anymore, and remove it from my cart from that perspective. Okay, and then number one request that we get from customers is helping them set up a new employee request offering. So we're hiring a new person in our organizations. What's the details for that? Well, since I can, I'm going to go ahead and hire my son. My son is going to be in the facilities team, and he is going to be the manager of facilities services. He's going to be a full-time employee. Right. Notice it says minimum 2-week lead time required. I can't choose anything less than 2 weeks from today, right? So let's put him a little bit further than that. We'll go ahead and put that as a put him in the Pleasanton office. We'll give him an office, give him a space that's here, and he'll need a computer. Let's say he'll probably need a notebook computer. Let's make it an ultra portable with a port replicator. I cannot click today. We can go through and give him a second monitor, 23-inch widescreen. He'll probably need a mobile phone for this role, so we'll go through, give him an iPhone 8. Along those lines, we'll go ahead and say he'll also need business cards and a corporate American Express card, right? All of the costs of each thing that I've selected, based upon that, has come through from here. Go ahead and click review and submit. Submit that out, and then you will see here my shopping cart with the total cost of that. I can go ahead and submit that in to there, and we have all of that. Now, if I were to go view my items in that, you would then see all of the different configuration on there. Give me a quick refresh on that in the my items, right? So if I were to go through and look at my requests, here's that new employee setup that we just submitted for Ethan. If we wanted to add notes, and I'm sure you guys have never seen this, and we go ahead and submit that and put that in. So we can go through and have all of the kind of details. That information then comes back to the analyst over here on our service request side, and that new employee setup's been submitted. We see the information about that. We can come in here to the details. We would be able to see that. Oh, we can see that the note that was added around those lines, and then you'll notice there's 4 tasks that have been set up, one for IT, one for telecom, one for facilities. This all came from the workflow that sits behind this request offering. When I go ahead and complete this, if we wanted to do that, let's say this takes 3 hours to go through and do. You'll notice then it tracks the time and adds cost items to say, hey, this particular task that was completed based upon someone in IT took $72 for a cost to the business. If you want to get into that level, that's kind of that financial management side of it from there. So those request offerings are all here, and we can go through and say, you know, let's look. Did I click service request? I thought I clicked request offerings. I'm sorry. Request offerings. That's what I wanted. So here you would be able to go through and say, let's look at that new tablet request, right? Well, here's the new tablet request. Here's the base cost of that. Hey, we allowing them to edit. We allow them to cancel it. Here's the form. Hey, here's the fields that they need to fill out for that particular thing. Here's the workflow for a tablet. It's going to go out, get an approval from that user's manager. As soon as it's approved, it's going to make the request not editable, right? And then it's going to go to an IT task for somebody to complete it once it's been approved, right? Another example of this would be that new hire that we just walked through. So let's go look at that. From a new employee setup, You'll see here, again, here's all the form, the fields, the start date, the facility, the equipment details. Did they need a computer? All of that kind of stuff is all available here. If I needed to add something like a new drop-down list, I find it over here, drag it, select it. I can come in here to the drop-down list, edit the configuration on there. I'll just go to the mobile phone drop-down list that exists. Notice there was a mobile phone required checkbox, and then the mobile phone drop-down showed up when we did that. So here you'll see all of the information about that mobile phone drop-down list, whether it's visible or not. Hey, if the mobile phone required is equal to true, then make this field visible. And then here's the pick list. Hey, here's what they can choose from the iPhone 8 or HTC Pure or any of those kind of things. They would be able to go through and do that. If I needed to add something to that list, I come ahead and add it in, put the details in there, and it does that. If it's something like department or cost center or anything else that I do again and again and again, that I'd want to put a validation list on the back end and kind of work through it from that perspective on that. Okay, so lots of capability. Oh, let me do two more things on this before I open it up for questions, John. We've got a workflow that sits onto this. So here you'll see the operations, the facilities, the IT telecom component. Let's say I needed to get an approval before that all happened. Well, here's the approval block. Here's the configuration of the approval block. Users from a specific group, users from a context, users from somebody related to the employee, a specific user. Have them select who it is in the request offering. If there's a group, what percentage need to approve? If it's deny, what percentage of users need to deny for it to be denied? All this kind of stuff is configured in the approval block. And then let's just say I needed to run some tasks. Throw a couple of other tasks in here. You'll notice these tasks then can, come on, select that, link over. Now this one is in parallel with all the other ones, but this next one wouldn't get created until this first one was completed. So as soon as this one was completed, then it would go ahead and create this second task kind of in there. You'll also notice there's a lot of capabilities within this workflow to do lots of different things, run web services. So if I've got to connect out to some third-party application through a web service, that's available here. For those of you who have the Ivanti ELA, you can get automation to start going out and doing lots of things out to third-party systems, and it will send over runbook information over to the identity side and go through and do all kinds of stuff that allows you to pull in different external systems, different external configuration, all within the workflow as well. And then lastly, you define who they're published to. So who in the organization can submit it, who can edit it, who can see it, all that kind of stuff is then available within here as to the publishing of that service request offering. So we didn't want to go a full in-depth detail of this. We've talked a little bit about incident. We talked a little bit about service request. Obviously, there's a change management module. Obviously, there's a full CMDB module associated with that. I also have, for those of you with the ELA, you can get into project management from in here. It's very high-level project management. I don't want to get into too much detail on that, but you can set, projects with phases and schedules and tasks and different components associated with that. So it's more of a portfolio of a project, but not to the individual details that may be like a Microsoft project or something, defined project management tool. But a lot of customers, it's kind of all that they need from there. We also have full analytics metrics that you can go through and start tracking different components. How are we doing from our metrics? Again, everybody who has an ELA or every customer of Ivanti has access to extraction. This has, native extraction connection, and that you can use extraction, but you can also use the business analytics that are in here as well. Kind of watching something like a financial trending and how we're doing from a costs perspective. Some of that kind of stuff would be able to see there. Okay, John, I'm going to rest for questions.
There's quite a few, so you won't be resting too long. When you close a master incident, does it close all the related incidents as well?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There's a question on the asset details contained within. Are the asset details contained within Service Manager itself, or is the data collected and contained from Asset Manager?
So asset manager is the new asset manager. So for anything that's in the ELA today, is contained within the same platform. So the asset manager is just an extension to the CMDB within the service manager. So it's all the same thing.
Okay. Is there an interface between Service Manager and other enterprise monitoring services?
I would need more detail on what enterprise monitoring services is. Things like SolarWinds, the answer is yes. Things like Microsoft Operations Manager, we've done that before. There's no native one, but it can be done, not that hard. So the event management module allows you to go through and configure those. And then what kind of detail you're looking for from an event, I would need more detail on that.
Okay, and then do we have a little time to show the CMDB interface?
So yeah, let's go and look at, here is a particular, let's just go look at this, okay, I can't see them right off the top, so let's just go to Exchange. All right, so here's an Exchange server within my system. You can go through, see, here's all of the high level detail. Here's the hardware details along those lines, whether that's a physical or virtual, doesn't really matter. Who's the owner of it? What's the organization? What type of computer is it? Right? Here's the detailed hardware, memory, display adapters, storage information, all there. Here's the events from that network monitoring or enterprise monitoring system. Network card that's on there, we'd be able to go through and see that. The software that's on that particular workstation would then be here or server. If it's a host or guest, we would be able to go through and say that this is hosting a couple of virtual machines or what host it's sitting on. You can also see there's going to be upstream and downstream, right? So this particular thing has an Exchange other server downstream, but upstream it has the Microsoft Exchange Business Service as well as Outlook and BlackBerry Enterprise functionality there. You can also have that visual in a CI map where you would be able to go through and see, okay, here's kind of the details from that. Well, let's go in and drill into maybe Microsoft Exchange a little bit more, and we can see, oh, this business service also has a CI map, and you would see there's more than just that one server. There's a couple of different servers that are being involved in there from that perspective. Continuing on with the CI itself, you can go through and see it will have costs to it if you wanted to track costs, cost allocations, where they're being billed to, incident history, problem history, change history upon that particular server. We're also able to go through and set a change lockout. So when can we do changes? When can we not do changes associated with that? All allowed in here. So lockout and change windows set from that kind of perspective. Being able to then go through, track even patches that were applied to this if you wanted to kind of get into that level and track that details from a CMDB perspective. It can all be in there and tracking details along those lines. So very robust CMDB along the different components from here. So, okay, what's next, John?
All right, question about Active Directory and workstations being synced. Currently, we're set up as a daily poll, and it pulls down the new computer objects. Old objects are left when the AD object is deleted. Will this pick up the fact that the computer object is deleted from AD and remove it?
No, not a best practice.
Okay. Can more than one analyst be assigned to an incident?
No, there's one analyst that's the owner of a particular incident. And then if we need other people to also work on that, generally the way that my customers are doing that, they're adding tasks to other people that are in there. So there's one owner from a perspective, and then if I need other people to be involved, I can create tasks, give tasks out to other people within the organization that need to work on it.
Okay, you mentioned the SolarWinds integration. Can it be set up to automatically open an incident?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Now, whether you want to go straight to an incident or just create an event and then track whether the event needs to be escalated to an incident, that's a different conversation, but the answer is yes, if that's what we want.
Okay. Can you link the new employee workflow to applicable needs and security access requirements?
Yes, I would probably think at that point you'd want to be starting to look at the identity piece of the ELA as well. So it starts to go through and say, hey, we're hiring Ethan into the facilities manager role. Hey, that facility manager role gets the following access to the following 30 applications and all that kind of configuration. And here's, once we hire them into this role, they automatically get all that configuration set to them. The identity piece does all those components that are there. So that would probably be the best place for it in the long run.
Okay. The APIs with ERP systems, are those in the works or available now?
So they are in the works. I don't know from an ERP perspective which ones you're looking for or where they're at, but they are in the works.
Okay. How does the workflow work moving the tasks through multiple departments? Are they able to work simultaneously? Is everyone working off the same incident, or are there multiple?
Usually, they're going to be one incident or one request, and then tasks are going to be divvied out to other people within the organization. And then if I need to get into task sequencing or task control, then we do that through the workflow involved in that particular incident or request offering.
Okay, I think we're all caught up. Anything else to show us today, Brian, before we wrap this up?
Nope, not unless there's any other questions.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to the Q&A slide there. We'll give your information out. Thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions, please reach out to your account representative if you know who that is, or feel free to send an email to Brian and we'll route that appropriately. Brian, thanks for joining us today, taking your time to answer all those questions. We appreciate it. And thanks for joining us, and we'll hope to see you next Thursday for Identity Management. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye-bye.